Hello there, math fans. This is Dr. Andy Lovelace. I'm making this video mostly to post it on my discussion board and challenge my students to some drawing. I'm hoping that many of them can draw better pictures than me. We don't force students to draw quadric surfaces in our class. We do ask them to identify them and be able to think about them. But a student come up the other day and said, how would you draw some of these? Would you use the traces? And so that got me researching a little bit. There are many people online who talk about different ways to draw these, and I've gone through some of them. Traces is definitely the way to go, but I'm going to show you several bad pictures of me attempting to use the advice. And then I hope that some of you will share your own videos or pictures on my discussion board or email them to me. I'd love to get some advice on drawing these. I'm going to do several 3D prints of these for a project I'm working on, but I thought it'd be fun to draw a few. So first we have this circular paraboloid. I talk about the so-called thumb method, meaning if you cover up x or replace x with a constant, you get parabolas. If you cover up y, you get parabolas. If you cover up z, you get circles. And so briefly, this is the thumb method. If the traces in two directions are parabolas, you call it a paraboloid. If you missed that, check my other naming. And then the adjective in front of it is the other trace, which in this case is a circle. It's a circular paraboloid. Now what that means is from the sides, it looks like a parabola, and from above it looks like a circle. Now an interesting little tip I picked up in my searching was a tip for drawing circles. So before I get into that, I'm going to show you the tips I found. So if you're just freehanding and trying to do a sketch, a suggestion, it's very hard for me to write on this tablet. I'm using a rough pen on a tablet that then translates to what you see. That is not my best. I can do much better with pencil on paper, but there's this comment as basically divide it into fourths, put a little nub here, and then use that to guide your circle. And I can already see that I can't do this very well, but if I could round it better with this pen, it gives you a little bit of guidance. Now, what I found was interesting about this was I'd never thought of this before, but if you make like a parallelogram, let's say you're drawing a box, which I can do better than that. Let's say we're drawing a box, and then I'll come back. This is just my musings this is not officially a part of the course. Students are always asking, do I have to graph? No. But if you need to draw a circle on the side of a box, you can do the same thing. Break it up into fourths. Think about where it should be and use those as guides, and then try to draw something rounded. It breaks up your task and actually does a really pretty good job if it wasn't me. So if I'm drawing this, I am going to draw. It's good to wait to add your axes. That's one, I think, good tip. I'm going to try to just draw my typical parabola. Then I'm going to try to draw another one that goes front and back. So I'm going to go front to back, and then I'm going to come back up. And on the top, I'm going to try to draw a circle. That's where I maybe could use this technique, use these four sides to draw a circle in perspective. Now, and then I could erase that dotted line in the back. I guess I could draw it there if I wanted just to see it. There you go. If you wanted, you could draw a few more traces, like a trace here. Now this one most people could draw. I was using this as a starting place before I get into the harder things that are coming. All of these traces are parabolas. In fact, that's what you see when you try to draw this in a 3D grapher, is it draws the traces. It also draws traces the other way. Draws these traces coming this way. So anyways, if I was actually going to draw this, I would just do parabola, rough circle. But it was a little better for me to do it the way I was doing it there before, because that turned out pretty good. Okay, so next is probably the most interesting to draw, is this one. Now this one, if you do traces, you also get parabola. And what I mean is if you cover up X, it's a sad parabola. If you cover up Y, it's a happy parabola. And if you cover up Z, it's a hyperbola. So we still call this a paraboloid. That's how you remember the name. But it's a hyperbolic paraboloid. Now, I was thinking about this. I think of it as a Pringles chip. So I'm going to draw the Pringles chip second. I'm going to show you the more typical. So again, I should leave that because I meant to. You know, if I'm just drawing this for myself, there's the quick draw. There was the more thorough draw. You can see I just don't do very good with that circle. Okay, so this one. Here is one way to do it. Is you draw a happy parabola one way. You draw a sad parabola the other way. You put little dots because you're not going to be able to see the back. Those are the traces that we were talking about. And then you try to draw a hyperbola from above. Hyperbola is going to come, touch this. It's hard to draw this. I should have done it with a little more perspective probably. There's that. And then you can go down. This is the way you typically see it drawn. And then you can draw another hyperbola here, connecting. Not going to be able to see it in the back. Come down. Where do I connect this? I think I should have drawn this a little more coming out. As I told you, I wasn't going to do this very well. Oh, shoot. This is after I practiced. There we go. There you go. Not bad. Then I go back and erase. But I thought that was sort of interesting because you can actually see the traces there. Now, then I was like, how do you draw a Pringles chip? And I found a nice couple of videos that said, well, at that point you might want to make a bounding box, a sketching idea of first draw a box if you can, if you're just trying to do a sketch, kind of the dimensions. And then it's still the idea of the traces. So I'm going to draw a parabola that comes up, touches right here, and comes back down. Then I'm going to draw a parabola that touches right here. This is these happy parabola. And on the back of this bounding box, I should have done this. I'm going to draw a parabola going up, and then I'm going to draw a parabola coming down here. And then we actually draw the Pringles chip. What color to use here? By following this. So you say, I'm going to start along the top, and when you get to near the end, you then join up with the other one, kind of trying to do it in a smooth way. And when you get about to the end here, you try to join up with this one. Then when you get to where it meets, you go back along it. And then you, from the other side, you join up. And then you erase your bounding lines as best you can. That does pretty darn good. So that was nice. Nice little tip for a Pringles chip. But it's still using the traces, so that might be helpful. Okay, so those are the main things I wanted to see. Again, if you look in a grapher, what they do is they graph evenly spaced traces, kind of in both directions. So they would draw more parabolas, they would draw more hyperbolas, kind of evenly spaced. It just depends on how it's set up to do it. There you go. Maybe it draws a few parabolas going this way. Those are those traces. So that might add a little bit. And those traces would also be on this Pringles ship. If I was drawing it with traces, you'd have this parabola that goes up. You'd have several of those spread out here. So I don't know if this is interesting in a different way. The sad parabolas. The hyperbolas are harder to see here. That's why it's usually not drawn as a Pringles ship. It's drawn like this because you can more easily see it. But I just think the Pringles ship is cooler. Okay, so then we have the hyperboloid of one sheet, which is what this one is. So this was the hyperbolic paraboloid. This was the circular paraboloid. These are the hyperboloids, as I jokingly say in class. I think of all of those as circular hyperboloids, but no one consulted me on the naming of these. And so this is the hyperboloid of one sheet, the historic name. There's a reason for that. And this is the hyperboloid of two sheets. And this is the degenerate hyperboloid, also known as a cone, the extremely skinny hyperboloid. So anyway, they have the same traces in a sense, so that's why I would like to use the same name. The hyperboloid traces are hyperbola, hyperbola, and circles. So if I was going to draw a hyperboloid of one sheet, I would draw a hyperbola from the front, and I just did a terrible job. I would have another hyperbola kind of going front and back. And then just like with the paraboloid, then I would draw the traces of the circle on top. And I'd have another one down here. There you go. And those are those, then I could erase the lines you can't see. And this video is getting too long. But I challenge you to draw those yourself. There's a hyperboloid of one sheet. There you can see those traces. A cone has the same sorts of traces. So let me finish my own challenge. So the cone, the main thing about a cone is when Z is 0, you actually, when X or Y is 0, you actually get two lines. Looks like this line. So in a sense, that is truly not a hyperboloid. Hyperbola, but if you step away from it, it is. And then I'll draw a similar line going kind of forward and backward. I don't know how to draw that. Lines coming out, and then one going back, and then I'll do this same little circle trick. Draw this circle. And I am a non-artist, so this is a huge breakthrough for me. And I hope students can share breakthrough in the fact that watching a couple videos about how to draw circles in perspective, which makes me realize I really want to take some art classes. Notice if you come like a step out, this is a hyperbola. It's only not a hyperbola right there at the beginning. So same thing with this one. This is a hyperbola. If you come a step out here, you can see those traces. Hyperboloid of two sheets, I always have trouble drawing that one. It just breaks apart. So from the sides, it looks like a hyperbola, but instead of, it's a hyperbola like this. And then it's also going front and back like that. Maybe this does help me. And then on top, I'm going to draw these circles. And here. That helped a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. So thank you to whichever student asked me this. thought that was sort of interesting. You can see there are circles this way. I should have drawn them closer together. Lastly, we have this sphere. I don't know how to draw it. Everything I find online has you shade. Now, shading is a little bit beyond me. You can see this here. Maybe it shouldn't be beyond me. Maybe I should embrace it. But I've never really tried to shade things before. I don't know that I can even do it on this thing. Like it said, you know, somehow put a shade back here. This is bad to just randomly experiment. Let's put some light there. Let's make it darker back here. This is terrible. Why would I do this? Why would I start experimenting on the fly? There's our shade. So any artists out there can give me some more tips. It's the Death Star. Oh, I don't know what this is. I don't know when to stop shading. I hope you're seeing you don't have to be a perfect artist to be in this class. I never was good. I would say growing up, I wasn't good at 3D visualization. But I now have tools to help think about it. And so it's something you can embrace. And I will put this on the discussion board, and I challenge others to try to draw pictures. The main thing is I was glad that I found a way to draw my Pringles chip. All right, thanks for listening.